everyone. Thank you for joining me. This is Vanessa with Feisty Mermaids, the podcast where we talk about everything women and girls and being absolutely limitless. So today I want to talk about kindness. And I was actually sitting in my front yard the other day having some wine with my neighbor since we can't really go in each other's houses because of COVID. And I remember when I was house hunting, one of the things that I absolutely loved about this house was this huge tree that's in the front yard. And I felt almost an energy, something about this tree. There was a story to this tree. And I knew that one day I was going to find out what that story was. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the research that talks about kindness. The research actually suggests that kindness can release really good hormones into your body. When you do an act of kindness, it actually creates some pretty cool things in your body, and physically and emotionally. So there is actually a professor of psychiatry at Cedars-Sinai. His name is Dr. William Isaac. And he states that we are all actually on a path to find happiness, and that kindness can help make this happen. He's found 3 things that are actually released into your body when you do an act of kindness. One of them is oxytocin, which we all kind of know this as the love hormone. When you feel this, you just feel very joyous and certainly in love. Another one is the release of dopamine. And dopamine is really the feeling of euphoria. It gives you the feeling of euphoria. And so certainly a good thing to have in your body. And the last thing that he found is serotonin. And he actually found that it helps to regulate your mood. Well, serotonin doesn't help you regulate your mood, but when you do an act of kindness and it releases the serotonin, that's what it does. In conducting this research, I actually came across a foundation, and it's the Random Acts of Kindness Foundation. And they've actually found that kindness decreases pain, stress, anxiety, depression, and can even lower your blood pressure. They've got some really amazing things on their website. And another thing that they talked about is that kindness is teachable. And I've certainly been able to see this with my daughter. One day, my mom came home super excited, and she'd gone to dinner on her own. I think my dad was traveling. And she mentioned to me that some complete strangers actually paid for her meal. She was so touched by that, and so was I, and so was my daughter, that one day when I was out to eat lunch with my daughter, I asked her to pick someone in the restaurant that we could pay for their meal. And we did. And this gentleman came over later, I want to say almost in tears, to say thank you. It's been a really long time since someone has done something nice for me. And all I said to him is, look, just pass on the kindness to someone else. Now, I've had to kind of put a stop to my daughter because she feels that every time we go out now, we have to pay for someone's meal. So maybe one day, but not quite yet. Another thing that the foundation talks about is kindness being contagious. And this is one of those things that as you hear stories of like the Starbucks drive-through and how one person will pay for the person behind them, and then that person pays for the person behind them, and so on, it just continues to be a chain reaction of kindness. And I can't remember one of the stories that I read, but literally dozens and dozens of cars who just kept passing on that kindness to someone else. So I'm going to share with you another example of kindness. I was going through a really difficult situation a few years ago, and I had met up with one of my really good friends for breakfast. I sat there sobbing at the restaurant because it was just emotionally a lot for me to kind of take. And the waitress came over at one point with a plate of like fresh baked pecan honey biscuits. And she put her hand on my hand and she said to me, look, I don't know what you're going through, but it seems to be really, really hard. The only thing I can do is give you some biscuits, and I hope that you eat them. And just so you know, the calories don't count. And certainly I was laughing, I was crying. And at that moment, I realized that I was going to be okay, that there were amazing people in this world and really angels to kind of get brought to your life to bring you some peace and maybe in this case some kindness that was able to help me get through at least that day. So let me go back to the story that I started to tell you at the beginning of the podcast about the tree and my neighbor. So one day I was walking back from, taking my dog for an evening walk, and I ran into my next door neighbor, a different neighbor. And he mentioned to me that he still keeps in touch with the people that first built this house. So I was excited to hear about that. And he said that they had asked if the tree was still here. And we started talking about the tree and how much I love it. So then he told me the story that it was actually the grandfather of this family that gave them the tree. And it was a little stick when they first got it and they put it out in the front yard. And it's amazing how more than 25 years later, the tree's still there and it continues to give all this love. So one act of kindness from this grandfather not only gave the family a lot of love and kindness and happiness, but it's also continued to ripple into my life so that every time my friends come over, we can sit outside underneath that beautiful shade and I can watch my daughter run around the tree and play all those amazing games that she does. So I'm going to leave you with this quote, and it's, kindness is choosing to acknowledge and celebrate the beauty in others, regardless of whether or not they can find it in themselves. So if you like this podcast, please subscribe. You can also visit the website for some of the links of some of the things that I talked about today, and it's feistymermaids.com. And certainly connect with me on social media at Feisty Mermaids on Twitter, Instagram, and on Facebook.